In 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to Geekvice episode 292, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back. This is the second week in a row, which is amazing.
Well, wonders never cease.
I know, right? We're getting back on track, guys. We're getting back on track. We're getting this going. Since it's only been a week, what have you been up to this last week there, Kip?
Well, I was getting ready to say not a whole heck of a lot, but then I realized I actually got to play board games this week.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Though it was just with one other person, so we didn't break any social distancing laws or anything like that, but it was a good time.
And it's nice to be able to get out and do that stuff with, even if it's just a few people here and there, just being able to get out and do some stuff still. We haven't really gone anywhere this last week. We actually had a really chill weekend last weekend where we didn't do a whole lot, which was kind of nice. So kind of looking forward to that, looked forward to that, enjoyed that. And now I'm getting back into some video gaming because I'm back in town. So I actually beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the main storyline, last night. So I will save my review of that for when we talk about video games, because I got some stuff to talk about on it. And I'm also hoping to get a little bit farther into it too, because the Ubisoft on the computer tells you that the percentage of complete for what they call the main storyline, which I'm not really sure what that means. And it's got me at 90%. I don't know if that's full game, or I'm not really sure what that is, but I've still got quite a few quests and quite a few things to do, which is kind of the nice thing about it when you finish a storyline and then you go, oh wow, I still got a lot to do. So I'm hoping to see kind of what that entails, and then we can talk about that more when we talk about video games. But I'm also working on a puzzle. I started a new puzzle, which I should have brought it down, but it's one of those castle. It's a 1,000-piece puzzle of a castle in Germany. I can't remember the one. Schweinstein Castle, I think. Really old castle. It's really cool looking picture. But the pieces on it, it's 1,000 pieces, so it's small pieces. But the picture is matte. It's like a matte color. So the bright colors are really bright, and there's a real good contrast to the bright and the darks in the picture, which is nice. But then when you get into the darker colors, or like shadows that are because of the light, there's shadows on this castle, and those pieces almost look like one singular color, and makes it really hard. So I just started it today, this evening, while watching the sporting game, and got the outline done and got some of the middle done. So we'll see how long it takes me. The last 1,000-piece puzzle took me about 5-6 hours total to do over a couple of days. So we'll see how long this one takes me.
Dang, you put puzzles together pretty quickly.
Sometimes, kind of depends on the puzzle. Some of them not so much, but this last one went by pretty quick. So we'll see what this one does. If I have it done by the next podcast, then that I will consider that a win. But we'll have to see.
I would like to put a puzzle together, but I think my cats would wreak havoc on having the puzzle out.
Yeah. So we actually got, it's called a Stow and Go, but it's by, what's the name of that brand? Ravensburger something like that. They make puzzles. They're a company that makes a bunch of puzzles. I think they actually make board games too.
Yes.
Um, but all it is this felt pad, like mat, that you lay out, and you put your puzzle on there, and then it has this big tube that you blow up. So it's like this big long sausage balloon, and you set that down on your mat when you're done, and you roll up your mat around this, and because it's like a felt material, the pieces basically stick. You can't slide the pieces around. So as you roll it up, it keeps everything all nice and tight around this balloon, basically, and then you put a couple of Velcro elastic straps around it to hold it all together, and it basically turns into this, tube about that big around, and about yay long, and it then you can just put it wherever you want, stash it out of the way.
Some people are pretty smart to come up with stuff like that.
I know, right? I my grandparents used to have like a big tray that would that you put the puzzle together in the middle, and then it actually had like trays that came out of it, so you could sort pieces out on those, and then it would all stack back up and fold up together, and it would only be about the height of like the couch off your floor, so you could slide it under a couch. But I don't have that, and buying one of those is kind of expensive. So
Yeah. My dad saw one of those tray ones in an ad, and he went, I could just make that for myself. So he did.
well, if he gets bored and wants to make me one, I'd be more than happy to take it off his hands.
I will pass that on to him.
But yeah, so not many board games for us. Well, we've got a new board game, but I didn't bring it down because I didn't want to take into the time of going over the board game that you've got, because I want to spend a lot of time on it because I think it's really cool and I want to hear a lot about it. So we'll just jump right into it. You brought us Disney Villainous, and you finally got to play it.
I finally got to play it. In fact, I played 2 games of it last night.
Ooh, nice.
And
nice.
I'm happy to report I won both.
What? No way.
So bask in my glory. I actually won 2 board games in a row.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Way to go. And the same game nonetheless.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So, Villainous is for 2 to 6 players. So we'll just get all this stuff out of the way. Ages 10 and up. I don't even know if that means anything. You have children. Yeah, if you see 10 and up, do you think your kids younger than 10 can play it?
Mine, yeah. I think it's more. I think it's more when I see 10 and up I know that it requires a little bit more reading and a little bit more understanding, but does not make me shy away. It probably could go as low as like maybe 8.
Gotcha. Okay. And so the time to play it, it says if you have 2 players, it's 40 minutes. If you have 6 players, it's 120 minutes.
Oh.
Depending on number of players, it could take 40 minutes to 2 hours.
Wow.
And I kind of felt like I just played 2 players last night. The 40 minutes was about right.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like that was off. So let's just get into the coolness of what this game is. So you actually play as a villain from the Disney universe. And the base game that came out, there's 6 of them to choose from. There's Captain Hook, Maleficent, Jafar, Ursula, Prince John, and Queen of Hearts. So you have all 6 of those to choose from, and you're like, great. So what? I get to pick 6 from 6 heroes. No big deal. Well, here's the big deal. For our YouTube peeps, here's one of the big deals. Depending on your character, you get a really cool looking piece to use on the board.
Those are cool.
This is Captain Hook. That's Maleficent.
Nice.
Excuse me. So that's the first cool part. The second cool part is each one of them has their own board. And what's important about this board is it tells you your villain's winning condition, and it's different for every villain. So you may play as Ursula, which is the board I'm holding, and it says if you start your turn with the trident and the crown at Ursula's lair, you win the game. Jafar's is if you start your turn with the magic lamp at Sullivan's Palace and Genie under your control, you win the game. So each one of these is different. I played last night as Prince John, which his winning condition is the currency of the game is called power. Mm-hmm. And if I started my turn with 20 power tokens, I win the game. And then the first game I played as Maleficent, and her objective is to start your turn with a curse at each location. So I'll explain what that means. So each villain, besides having their own deck and their own objective, or their own board and their own objective, they actually come with 2 decks of cards. Each villain has their own. The cards that are got the color background that matches the board are the cards that help them, and this is part of the deck building system. So this is you will always have a hand of 4.
Okay. From
this deck. The other deck is this white-backed deck, and this is called your Fate deck, and each villain has their own Fate deck. And this deck is the Take That deck that's used against you.
Okay.
So, each board has 4 spaces on it. 4 locations to go to. Okay. My background makes this hard to see, but there's 4 spaces to go to. And each space has 4 things you can do. You can do all 4, you can choose to do 1 of the 4, you can do 2 of the 4, 3 of the 4, in any order, as long as you can actually do them. And there are things like, you go to one location, you can get like 2 power, because you're going to need power. Because power is your currency for when you actually have to play a card. There's a cost at the top of the card, and that cost is in power, and you have to have that many power tokens to play that card.
Okay.
So that's important. And then there's different symbols, and luckily the game was smart enough that it supplies a little cheat card for every player explaining what the symbols mean.
I love games that do that.
Yes. They also take it one step further, and each villain has their own player guide explaining how to play your villain.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It just made you go away.
So this game took it to extremes, which to help you, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
So, with that said, you look at your little cheat sheet, tells you what the symbols mean. There are things like gain power, like I just said. Play a card, which is one of the 4 cards in your hand. There's usually a cost that goes with it. Depending on your character, your cards could be anything from an ally to an item you have to attach to an ally to use it. Like in Maleficent's cases, she has a curse that when it's laid out, it has certain effects on the area that it's on. Like you can't place a hero here, which is hard to get your mind around. But when you realize heroes are the bad guys for you. Yeah. So there's also cards that are called conditions cards that don't have a power cost that you play on somebody else's turn if the condition is met. Like
Okay.
one of the cards for King John was on another person's turn, if they have at least 6 power, play this card and you gain 3. Because Prince John needs 20 power to win the game. So,
Right.
greed is good as far as Prince John is concerned. So it's those kind of cards. You can place allies and heroes on your board, like I said, at each location. One of the actions that could be on your space is you can move your ally to an adjacent space. Like the one I read to you where it said, like Jafar, you had to have the magic lamp at Sultan's Palace.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an item that may have gotten placed somewhere and you need to move it to Sultan's Palace.
Gotcha.
That's the space that you could incrementally move it to the direction you need it to go.
Okay.
There's another one that looks exactly like that card, except it has a lightning bolt in it. And that is so you can move the cards along the top of your board, which are the heroes, which are the ones that are messing with you, and you can move those around.
Okay.
Those are also important because, like, Captain Hook has to defeat Peter Pan at a certain location, so you get him on the board, then you have to move him to that location, then you get to defeat him to finally win the game, so that's important. Another action is called the Fate action, and when you choose to do the Fate action, you pick another player, and they have to take the top 2 cards off of their Fate deck, lay it out on the table so you can see it, and you pick one of those, and then the other one gets discarded, and then you play that on them. It could be anything from a hero to an item for the hero, like a sword or bow and arrows or something that makes them stronger. There's all sorts of things in here. There's an effect that, like this one for Ursula, choose a hero with a strength of 4 or less from Ursula's Fate discard pile. Play that hero onto Ursula's location. So if she defeated somebody, you could play this card and bring them right back. That kind of thing. So
Nice.
there's those. There's heroes. There's items. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Heroes, items, and effects in your Fate deck. At first, I couldn't figure out why they called it a Fate deck, and then I realized there are times where the 2 cards that come up, because you don't have the conditions on your board, those cards can't be used. And fate was shining on you that day, and nothing bad happens to you. So, being called Fate makes sense now.
Okay, yeah.
So, another one is there's a Vanquish. You have to be at a location with a Vanquish action, which means then you can choose a spot that has a hero and you have allies at that spot. And if your power on your allies matches or exceeds the hero, then you can defeat the hero. The bad part of that is whatever allies you use to defeat that hero, they also get discarded. So the hero comes off the board, your allies come off the board. Just part of the game.
Yeah.
And then there's also a space where you can discard cards. There are times where you've got a hand of cards like, I can't use any of these. You can discard them all or 1 or 2 or whatever you choose. And then when your turn is over, you can draw back up to 4 and have a whole new lease on life, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. So your turn consists of, you take your fancy mover and you move it to another location. You don't have to move it to the adjacent location. Just another location. You cannot reuse the location you were currently on.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
So
some villains have a card that allows them to use the same spot twice. But if you don't have that card, you have to go somewhere else.
Gotcha.
So you move. You pick what actions you want to do in any order. And then when you're done with that, you draw back up to 4 cards and your turn is over. And then it moves on to the next person. It's that simple of a game.
So you do discard at the end of your turn, you discard all the cards you don't use?
No, you keep them
Oh, you keep them.
unless you
Okay.
decide to use the discard action if it's in your space, and you just discard what you want to get rid of.
Gotcha. So you can hang on to some stuff for
Yeah, so
like
if you play no cards,
then
you don't discard them if you don't want to.
okay.
If you played one card, then you draw another card. Just it's not like, well, it is like Dominion or anything like that. Whatever cards you used,
Yeah.
you keep the ones you didn't use, and you get rid of the ones you did use, and you draw back up to 5.
Right.
This is the same thing, so if you draw back up to 4.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the game is a combination of a hand management game,
Mm-hmm.
a deck builder, if you will. Take that game because of the Fate deck. There's some battling with the Vanquish, and then the beauty of it is everybody has their own victory condition, and it's also the curse of the game because it's a take that game.
Right.
So you have to know what the other people are trying to accomplish
Yeah.
to effectively mess with them.
Okay.
And luckily on the little cheat sheets that they give you, that on one side tells you what all the symbols mean, on the other side it tells you what all the villains' winning conditions are.
Oh, even better.
So
Well
you
done,
can
Disney.
kind of at a glance go, oh, I'm playing against Queen of Hearts. Oh, she has to do all this stuff. Let's see if she's doing that and if I can block it. So
Right.
that's cool.
Okay.
One of the things I do like about this game, another thing, I just love this game if you haven't been able to tell. Another thing I like about this game is there is a token that when Fate is played on you, you get the token. Nobody can play Fate on you again until somebody else has Fate played on them, and then you give them the token. So you
Okay.
can't just be ganged up on.
Okay. It's a
So
nice way to balance it out.
if it looks like you're winning this game, and there's 5 people playing, all 4 of them can't just drop Fate on you.
Right. Right.
So,
Okay.
So I think because of all the different winning conditions, because each deck is completely different depending on which villain you choose from,
Mm-hmm.
the high quality pieces, this game is worth the investment big time.
Yeah.
There's 6, like I said, there's 6 villains in this one. There's like 3 or 4 expansions
Are there really?
that add more villains.
Oh, that's cool.
And the cool thing about the expansions is if you didn't own the base game and say somebody bought you the expansion on accident,
Yeah.
expansions are standalone games. You can play those as by themselves.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can add them to the base game. You can play them on their own. I know one of the expansions adds like Scar and things and villains like that. So that's
funny.
cool.
So the
The
funny thing
cards-
is, we talked about Ravensburger. They made this game,
Did they?
or at least they made the expansions.
Yeah. Yeah, this just has Disney plastered all over the box, but
Yeah. No, I think they made the game.
right here, Ravensburger.com. Yep, there it is.
That's hilarious. See, we unintentionally look at that segue.
Yeah, exactly. But the cards, the art is really cool, and the art and all the cards have the characters from all the Disney movies you're used to seeing.
That's
So
cool.
Ursula, there's actually cards with the Little Mermaid on it and stuff like this. So because it is Disney, they went the extra mile. Like I said, the component quality is excellent. The art is good because it's freaking Disney, for crying out loud.
Right.
The game is easy to learn. Not easy to win, even though I did win 2 in a row. I look forward. I wanted to play this and get it to the table to see if I liked it because I do want to get expansions so we have more villains to choose from.
Yeah.
And then Disney and Ravensburger broke my heart the other day because they announced that there is a Marvel Villainous that they came out with.
I was going to bring that up because I just did when you said there was an expansion. I went and quickly did a Google search for it, and the first thing that showed up was Marvel Villainous.
Yeah.
Oh
I don't know if
man,
I would have picked it over
it's got
just the Disney
Ultron.
Villainous, but
Who do
I
we
would have
got
liked to
here?
have the option when I was looking at this game.
Killmonger, Taskmaster, Hela, Ultron, and Thanos are your five. Is there only
Oh, there's only
five of them?
5 in the Marvel
Look,
one?
looks like there might only be five.
Yeah, because there's 6 in the Disney one.
It's kind of hard to tell because I'm just looking at pictures. Yeah, looks
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, five villains in that one.
This game will cost you. The base game will probably cost you $40.
Yeah.
I think I got this one for 35 off Amazon. Don't tell my local board game store I did that, but I did. So it's not an expensive game by any stretch. Like I said, it's worth the investment. It's a fun game. I love Take That games. Thanks to the boys at um, Prolific Games for Flapjacks and Sasquatches, which was my first real Take That game.
Yeah.
Because of that game, I love Take That games now. So
That's cool. Yeah, this
yeah,
man. Yeah,
I highly
I'm just gonna
recommend
have
this
to get
game
it.
if I haven't made that clear. I am going to get the expansions. I am looking forward to playing this more. The person I played with, she was like, I can't believe how badly I played this game. I want to play it some more. So that made me happy knowing my board game group actually did, at least one of them liked the game.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah, and I'm kind of curious. So you played with two people, and you said it was about 40 minutes, but it says if you go with six, it's like 2 hours. So I'm kind of curious what causes. I mean, I know what causes it to go longer. It's really just the amount of turns. It's everybody getting a turn. That's going to cause it to go longer. But I'm kind of curious to see where is it at that um, Board Game Geek, they always tell you how many people the community says that it's 2 to 4, and it's best with 3 people. So I'm kind of wondering if the three people range is because of the time that it takes when you start adding all the extra people into it. I'm wondering if that's more of the what's causing it
it could,
because
yeah, it could be. I know with the Take That aspect of it and more people, there's a lot more to keep track of. I mean, just the two of us playing,
mm-hmm.
trying to keep track of what my winning conditions were and her winning conditions was actually a little bit to digest while you're playing the game.
Yeah.
6-player game, I think it's going to get a little chaotic, and I think
Yeah.
maybe that's why they said 3 is perfect. But I don't think 6 would be bad, especially
Right.
with the right 6 people, because it's just that kind of game. I mean, it's Disney, it's
Yeah.
Disney villains. It's supposed to be this way, so you
Yeah.
don't really take it personal if somebody drops a hero on you and ruins your plans for that turn, that kind of thing, because it's just what the game is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, well, I'm gonna have to fight this guy. So it's
Hmm. Yeah, that's really cool. It looks like a lot of fun, and I also, I would say maybe one concern that you got with 6 people is since it is the amount of time in between your turns. You know, when you have that many people, it could be that you sit there and nothing happens to you for a while everybody makes their decision and makes their and does their moves. How long, like on a typical, since it was just the two of you, like did you feel like you had to sit there and you're not a paralysis by analysis guy anyway, but did you ever feel that like where your turns were too slow, like it was too long in like for a turn, whether it was yours or who
Only,
you were playing with?
only when we were first learning the game. But after that, I mean, at the most, you're going to do 4 actions,
Right.
and one of them is just collect power. It's just taking tokens and you're done. Another one is play a card, and that's usually fairly straightforward. It tells you what it does on the card, how much it costs to play it. The only time you may have any kind of analysis paralysis is what space do I go to? Because each space has a different set of actions.
Right.
You know, is
Okay.
this the one where I go and vanquish, or is this the one where I get more power? Because there's a spot that has 3 power. There's spots that have 1 power. I think there's even a spot that has no power to pick. I mean, it's a resource management as well. You got to make sure you have the power to play the cards. It's so picking your location could be the only place you would notice somebody struggling to make a decision.
And the reason I asked that is because that so when you asked about the age and how long, like, and if I thought, you know, if a game says 10 plus, do I shy away from it since I've got one kid less than 10? That's the one part of it where when you're playing with kids, it can sometimes, if there's a lot of decisions to make in a turn, sometimes that becomes really long. That's that happens with us when we all play gizmos together. Is I'll
Yeah.
have, you have all these gizmos in front of you that you could buy if you've got if you only have a couple marbles or in this case if you only have a little bit of power and you can only do one or two things, then maybe it's not, then it maybe the turn goes by really quick. But when you have lots of things that you can do, that's where the game can kind of bog down. When you have kids, when you have younger kids playing. Now I'm really curious with this because with having characters that they all know, some of them they might not know as well as others because being that movies like Sleeping Beauty and are older movies, but um, I mean, well, I guess there was the Maleficent movie that came out and the sequel to
Yeah.
it. The other thing that's really funny is I'll bring this up because it fits with the theme is my kids on Disney Plus. Some of their friends that happen to be little girls, or my friends' kids that are girls, they introduced my kids to the movies on Disney Plus called Descendants, which is basically the kids of these villains, all in like high school. It's basically a high school musical with Disney's villains kids. Um, and so my kids have been watching those, so they know the characters from that too. Um, so this would kind of be a fun game to be able to get out and show them and see how much they really enjoy um, with the different characters, the different villains. Um,
Oh, absolutely. And knowing what I know about your kids, I think your eldest would have zero problem with this game.
oh yeah, yeah,
The hardest, honestly, the hardest part for me, and this is kind of sad to admit, was the fact that you're a villain, and when you cut a card that says something to do with heroes, your first thought is, "Oh, heroes, the good guy." No, it's not for you. It's
yeah.
the bad guy for you. So, yeah. So it takes a second to get used to the fact that you don't want heroes.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being a thing. I mean, especially when you're used to playing. I mean, there's not a whole lot of games out there like this one. I don't know of really any others that take this, you know, bad guy side to it, where you get to play as the bad guys.
Yeah, it's when it first came out, and I saw like a review of it. I thought, oh, it's just a game that Disney slapped a theme on. I wasn't honestly interested in it. And then, as a viewer of BGG.com, I started seeing more and more hype about it. So I started watching how to play videos on it. And it's like, yeah, this game is cool. And so I asked for it for my birthday. I got it for my birthday. Played it last night. And I'll tell you, it's $35 at Target, and it's worth every penny.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't. Who was it? Gosh, I can't remember who played this game, but I watched him play it, and it wasn't. It was.
Was it Game the Game?
Maybe.
Because that's who I watched, where they were all kind of in character playing it. Is that the one you watched?
I think that might have been. I think that might have been it because
I
Game
think that
the
was
Game.
Game the Game. I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
Well, it was one of those that was done on the same YouTube channel that Critical Role used to be on, that Felicia Day started.
Oh
um,
yeah.
and had Will Wheaton, but it wasn't Will Wheaton's group that was playing it. It was another
Yeah, it was
group.
that girl.
Yeah, but it was still on that channel, and watching that play, it was. I mean, just watching them, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This was so Geek and Sundry. That's what it was called, Geek and
Geek
Sundry.
and Sundry, yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was fun to watch. It was, and the game just was engaging. And when you're watching somebody play a board game, if the board game is engaging as much as the people are, that is that says a lot about the board game. And so this was kind of one where it's like, yeah, that was where I first got introduced to it, and I was like, yeah, I really need this game. But
I think it'd be a good game for you and your family.
all right, all right. I hadn't pulled the trigger, and I might just have to pull the trigger and then surprise them for a.
Or sometime you could meet me somewhere and we'll play my copy.
There you go. I like that. I like that too.
Then you can make your decision based on that.
Oh man, yeah. It's this game just seems like a lot of fun. There's so many good pieces to it. There's like just the way it plays, and I gotta say, you've got to give them credit for a game for breaking the rules down so much so that that there's a book for each character. So
Yes.
each villain having the breaking down what they can do and not putting it in this really big book, because could you imagine how difficult that would be to play the game and then like, oh, I need to know what this person does and have to go grab, the big manual, flip to what you need, where you could just have that one book right in front of you. You can look up stuff as you need. That's ingenious. That's the little things that can push a game over the top, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And to their credit, because they did that, I pulled the big rule book out for setup, make sure I got that right. And then I always put the rule book in the lid, upside down lid, so I can get to it. Never had to pull it back out.
Yeah, that's
Everything else is right at your fingertips on a card.
Yeah, that's
on your
awesome.
board. Yeah, it was well thought out, amazingly so. I can't wait to get to expansions, because a lot of times expansions are, oh yeah, great, I get more villains, but because each villain is different, completely different.
Yeah,
I think it's really going to add to this game, so I'm pretty pumped about it.
well, and it adds to the playthroughs. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's one thing because you could play this game two times as the same villain and have the games turn out completely different because it's a little bit of the luck of the draw, a little bit of the luck of fate type thing. But on the same side of it, if you could play, if you're playing two person, you're playing with two people, you could basically play with the base game. You could play three times and each person be a different person each time. But then you add the expansions in. Now you can have three or four people playing, and you can play a couple of times, and nobody, the same character, doesn't have to be out there both times. That would be that's another step up.
Yeah, it is next level stuff. So, um, so we played this. We had a good time. We played 2 games, and then I brought a second game to play, and I've talked about this game, I think, in the past, but I haven't got to play it until last night. And it's another game that I find that I think you can play up to 4 players on it, but to me, it's a 1 or 2 player game.
Okay.
And it's called Chronicles of Crime. And Chronicles of Crime is a board game that you have to download the app on your phone or your tablet for, which I wasn't too excited about. But basically what it is you have a crime that happens. You have scenarios that are in the app. You say, okay, we're going to play this scenario. Last night we decided, hey, we're good at board games. Just pick a hard one because it'll say easy and hard and all that. So we picked a hard one because, we're idiots. And we, for lack of a better way of putting it, got our ass kicked by the game. But anyway, so the game starts out. There's a board. There's actually a big board in the middle where you put your clues and people. And then there's other boards that are locations that as you find new clues and stuff, you may be told, hey, go check this out at this location. Then you bring that board up and you do that. And then there's 3 decks of cards. There's a deck of people that they're numbered and they have a picture of the person. And that person could be different role depending on which scenario you choose.
Okay.
And then there's a deck of cards that are items that could be potential clues. And then there's a deck of cards that are special items. They have a star on the back. They look like an item card, but they have a star on the back instead of the other symbol. And they're all numbered. And so you start off with the home board of Scotland Yard, and it tells you, hey, pull out the chief and put his card there. And the whole reason you want the cards and the locations is they all have QR codes on them.
Okay.
So you start the game off, you scan the QR code of the chief, and he tells you a crime has happened at this location. So you pull out the board for that location. Then it'll tell you who was the victim, and you pull their card out and you put it at the location. And then you go to that location. And when you scan the location, there'll be a button that says search for clues. And here's the cool part. You click that button, it's a 3D view of the crime scene. So you take the item cards, one person looks at the crime scene, everybody else takes the item cards, and you basically move your phone around, and wherever you look, it's just virtual reality, and you call out what you see that you think is important. And then the people take and find an item card that somehow matches that. Like if you say, oh, there's a computer, there's a card that may say computer and some other devices. Or say, hey, I see a telephone, and there's a card that says communication devices. And, you'll see something out of place, and you're like, oh, looks like a necklace or something. There's a card that says jewelry. And you pull all these cards out. They all have QR codes on them as well. And then when you get done searching the scene, then you start scanning these cards. And then it'll tell you whether it's a clue or not. And if it's a clue, you add it to the main board in the middle. Once it becomes a clue and the app now knows that you found it, as you go and interview people and stuff like this, you can ask them about these clues that you found, and it'll start putting this story together for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, Besides locations, there's another set of board looking things that are your team, which is like the coroner, the forensic scientist. There's a hacker and a crime psychologist. And you can reach out to them and ask them questions about stuff. Like once you finally go to the location, if there's a dead body, you can then bring up the coroner, have them look at the dead body and tell you stuff about it, stuff like this. So at first I thought, oh, this game's going to be a piece of cake. We're going to scan some cards, everything's going to fall into place. No, it's not that easy. We struggled.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons we struggled is
Well, you picked a
everything
hard
you do
one.
costs time in game.
Oh.
You start out at 9 o'clock in the morning talking to the chief. If you drive to another location, that's 20 minutes of game time.
Oh.
Every person you interview is 5 minutes of game time.
Okay.
When you finish and you finally say, hey, we're going to solve, you get a final score. Your final score is affected by the amount of time it took you to get to the end. So it's also a race against the clock.
Okay.
And the worst part about the first time you play is you go back and forth to all these different locations because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, we'll go here. We asked this person some questions. Yeah, that didn't get us anywhere. Okay, we'll go over here. So there was 20 minutes over to there, 20 minutes to over there, and then 20 minutes back to this first location. It's like, we wasted so much time, and we got nowhere.
So it's actually 3 days have gone by with no sleep, and you finally solved the case.
We didn't solve it. We
Oh.
finally went, you know what, it's getting late. We'll just try it another time. The game has a mechanism in it. I think it has probably an internal timer or something that says these people are getting nowhere. And it'll say, hey, you're getting a call from the chief. And then the chief will drop something on you to help you
Oh, that's cool.
along the way. Yeah,
Okay.
because the chief had to call us a couple times because we're not doing well. And what happens is if you do not look at the crime scene and call everything out,
Yeah.
you're going to miss something. And
Right.
and in our case, there must have been important stuff because we had people. So there's a place on the board, on the main board, that's not a location, that if you hear about a person, you can pull out their card and put it there, but you
Mhm.
can't talk to that person because you don't know where they are. We had a bunch of those. We didn't know where they were.
Oh.
So we had a list of all these persons of interest we couldn't do anything with because we didn't pull out enough clues or ask the right questions or something to tell us where these people were.
Yeah. Okay.
And it sounds frustrating, but it was actually kind of fun. It was like, I am playing a cooperative game here and it's kicking my butt, which I appreciate. I don't
Yeah.
want my cooperative games to be easy.
Yeah.
And plus, I had like 6 or 7 Jack and Cokes, which probably didn't help. But the game was a blast. I enjoyed stumbling and fumbling because I am not a detective.
Yeah.
And it showed.
That's kind of cool. So, so on Facebook, I see all these. I get a lot of ads for like the murder in a box or the adventure games where they send you sign up for them and they send you this stuff and you try to solve like a murder or a case or something like that, and I'm assuming they send you clues periodically, or maybe you have all the clues in the box, but it sounds very similar to like what you were doing. And I've always debated on doing something like that because I think it would be fun to do as a family, or even just me and my wife, because we enjoy a lot of crime procedural type shows. I mean, I watched almost the entire series of Law and Order SVU Her and I almost watched that entire series. I think we might have because I think it's finished. But if it's still going on, I haven't watched it for a couple of years, so then that's not. But those type of shows have always been entertaining. They've always been fun for us, and so it's like, well, what would it be like to be, in those shoes and actually have to deal with that? That game sounds a lot like that, and it sounds like a lot of fun to
It
try
is.
your
I
try
won't
your
tell you
luck.
anything about the case that we were on because I don't want to give any spoilers away. But you think when you're looking at the crime scene in virtual reality, there's a little hint. You think you're just going to see a bunch of stuff that's like out of place,
Right.
and that's the stuff you should call out. The one we went to, there was only one thing that was odd. Everything else was completely normal, and I think that's why we didn't pick out all the clues we needed to get,
Right.
because it was just this guy's office, and it's like, well, everything looks normal. I don't know what I should be calling out, and it's after a while you're like, yeah, I probably should have mentioned the computer and the phone, and you
Yeah.
know, we,
Right.
so if you and your wife are into procedurals, I think you'd love this game, and I think it's a perfect couples game
Yeah.
because two people I think could play this game and be really 50-50 partners in solving this crime.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And I think the base game comes with there's a tutorial and then I think 5 scenarios to go through. And then you can buy more that are like $5 a piece. So there's a little bit of DLC action going on for you. But I have yet to pay for any expansions because, well, I finally got it to the table once.
Right.
And we're going to have to play the scenario again because we did horribly. And it looks like, and I can't say this for sure because we just decided we're going to end it and start over. But I think when you do finish it, when it gives you your score, I think you can do it in a way that doesn't give it away.
Yeah.
So if you did not solve it, you could try again at another time to improve your score and stuff like that. So the app is well thought out in that case.
Yeah.
The tutorial, highly recommend doing that. It'll save you a lot of time because you're honestly, if you don't, you'll be just sitting there going, I don't know what to do next. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or you didn't realize that once you scan a location, you're at that location, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want to talk to the chief, and then you scan the chief, it'll say he's not at that location. Like, son of a bitch. Okay, now leave that location, go to this other location, talk to the chief. And then sometimes you'll be talking to a person, you scan their card, and then you do whatever with them, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want to talk to this guy, and you scan that guy, and it's the person you were originally talking to saying, I don't know anything about that guy. Saying, oh yeah, I had to leave that conversation. So you have to leave that conversation to talk to the other person. So I highly recommend the tutorial. Otherwise, you will be like, what the heck? I keep forgetting to do this step, or
So
why is he
the
not giving me the information? Yeah.
yeah, on the when you're questioning suspects or talking to people in there, is it like are they canned like questions that come up on the screen that you pick to that it gives you an answer for, or
No, it's more meta than that. It's you scan their QR code, so now you're talking to them, and then
okay.
you find the card, the thing you want to ask them about, and you scan that card.
Oh, okay.
So like you go to your hacker and then you scan the communications card to see if maybe he can break into their phone and see who they called last or what text messages they got, or you scan the computer card so he can see if he can't tell you anything about the computer's files on there or anything like that. It's that kind of thing. So you
Okay.
don't actually ask questions, you just say, okay, they found this item at the crime scene. This is the person who found the body. Let me ask this person if she knows anything about this item.
Okay.
So you scan her card, you scan the item card, and she'll tell you what she knows.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. That's
And
really kind of neat.
sometimes they'll say, "Oh yeah, this belongs to this other person," and then it'll give you a card number, and you pull their card out, and then you place it on the board, and it's like, okay, now I got to find where this person is and go talk to them about this thing, and
Okay.
yeah, it actually feels like you are a detective trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Does
It
does
really
the
does.
app keep track of the stuff that you get answers for? So like that allows you to go back and look at it, or should you be keeping notes?
I feel like I should keep notes, but there is a history thing that you can go back and look at
Okay.
everything you did, all the answers you got, everything. So you can see everything you've done.
Gotcha.
But I feel like because you have to pass around one device,
Yeah.
it's just better to keep notes to
Yeah,
yourself.
and then I mean, even if it's just notes of like, person number two is this person, and he's here, or
Yeah.
so that you can
Or
kind of.
sometimes they'll say something that has nothing to do with a card or anything like that. They'll just say something and you're like, well, that was interesting. Probably should write that down.
Yeah. Might be important.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I
And
feel
what's
like you could be like a real cop on this thing and actually walk around with a note or sit there with a notebook, and as you go to places, write this stuff down.
That's cool.
Like, I placed this person on the board, but why is that person there? Well, because this other guy told me about that person. You probably would have that in your notes.
Yeah.
Or it's in the history thing, but it's much easier to look at your notes than go to the
Yeah.
history part of the
While
app and
some
find
yeah,
it,
while somebody else is scanning something to go find some information about this, you can be looking at your notes like, okay, that's what happened. That's kind of cool. So what's this game called again?
It's called Chronicles of Crime, and the beauty of it is the base game, all all of it takes place in London.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a British game. Um, it's 2 to 4 players. There are expansions for it, and the box for the base game, the insert has places to put the expansions in it.
Oh,
So once you get the expansions, you put all the cards and everything in there, and you still only have one box to carry around.
I do like that. I do like
Yeah,
games
and
that do that.
there's 2 expansions for it, I think, right now. One's called Noir, and I can't remember what the other one is, but
Hmm.
because I'm old and I can't remember anything. But it's not an expensive game. I think it's kind of along the lines of Villainous, 30 to 40 bucks, I think. The app is free. Actually, it says it's $28.18 on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's 2 reviews. Reviews. Jeez. 2 expansions. One called Crime Noir, and the other one is called Welcome to Redview.
Hmm.
And then they have a Kickstarter that I backed, and I should be getting those next year, called Chronicle of Crime 1400, Chronicles of Crime 2400, and Chronicle of Crime 1900. So it takes place in the past, present, and future.
That's
So
cool.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Nice.
there's, like I said, I thought this game was going to be a piece of cake, and I was afraid that we were going to play it and get done and be like, too easy. No, it's not too easy.
That's
So if
really
you're
cool.
into a cooperative game where you really have to be thinky, this is it.
Wow. Okay, yeah. And so this game, it's gotten high reviews on Board Game Geek. It's 7.9 with over 10,000, over 11,000 ratings.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
it
that's
was a
that's
risk on my
impressive.
part because it was ranked so high and I'd never played it. So, but I still picked it up anyway, and I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, even Board Games Geek says it's best with 2 players.
Yeah.
So if you and your significant other, or you and your best friend, like to play a lot of 2-player games, I think this would be a perfect one to add to your library.
Nice. That's really cool. All right. I like it. I like it. There you go, guys. You got a couple of different board games to check out.
Yeah, I finally got to play some board games. I've been wanting to talk about these 2 board games forever. I have one more that I haven't played yet.
All right.
It's Catan Starfarers, and I cannot wait to get that to the table and tell you guys about it.
Right on. Yeah, I look forward to it. I mean, those are 2 games that, man, I kind of want both of them. So
Yeah,
one at a time. Here, one at a time.
it's fun. It's fun to finally have 2 games that are not like any other games I own.
Yeah.
It's nice to finally get something like that, and it's like, wow, I've never played anything like this before. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a big selling point, really, is when you can have a game that just doesn't feel like anything else when you're playing it. That's really cool. So there you go, everybody. We got Disney Villainous and Chronicles of Crime, both high praise from Mr. Kip, and both of them, buy them if they're in your wheelhouse. Definitely worth the investment. And I'm kind of thinking about, I kind of like both of them. So I don't know. I'm definitely gonna get Villainous. That's got to go at the top of my list now. So that might be. I might be Christmas this fall, so, or maybe my birthday. That's sooner. So,
yeah, not much sooner, but it is sooner.
fair. But all right, guys, that's where we're gonna stop there. That's a long enough episode for you guys. 2 big reviews. Again, that's Disney Villainous and Chronicles of Crime. Go check them out. They're definitely worth it. And you know the deal. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Geekvice. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. You can also go hit up our YouTube channel. We have these videos up there. So if you wanted to see the stuff that Kip was showing on Disney Villainous, go check out this show on YouTube. Go check out our channel. Go search for Kip Morph on YouTube. We're the only Kip and Morph on there. And of course, you can always reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.